Namaste. Welcome to our 86th session on the Bhagavad Gita. All right, we've talked about the quality of action, sattva, rajas, tamas, then of the kind of person that acts, or a means of action, or accomplishing something. Okay, now we're ready for the 29th verse. Now, here, the three kinds of intellect and steadfastness according to the gunas set forth completely and severally. See how marvelous the Gita is? It tells us about all the aspects of our being so we can diagnose it correctly. Naturally, we like to think what we're doing is just fine and that's it. But Krishna is saying, you see this? If this is how you are, you're Sattvic. If this is how you are, you're Rajasic. If this is how you are, you're Tamasic. Or other people as well, or objects as well, or incidents as well, actions and ideas. Because we have to keep cultivating sattva, Shuddha sattva, pure sattva, because there is no liberation. There is no real, perfectly clear intelligence without it. But liberation also is absolutely necessary. So this is a scripture of yoga. Yes, it's being yoga, it's a scripture of life. So this is how we can understand ourselves. That we talk about, we have the expression in the field of psychology, personality profile. Well, here you have a profile, a guna profile. And it's meant for us to seriously apply it to ourselves and also apply it to anything else, things and also people, and also people's activities. We don't need to censure anybody. We don't need to condemn anybody. We don't even need to tell somebody, no, do it differently. But we should understand what we're looking at. We are our own spiritual physician. And therefore, we have to be able to make a diagnosis of ourselves and everything involved in our life, which of course includes other people. So then, intellect, thinking mind, that intellect which knows the paths of action and renunciation, it really understands both the external and the internal of it, the act that ought to be done, and the internal state of intention and even of outlook that ought to prevail. All right, so let's go back. That intellect which knows the paths of work and renunciation, with doing, not doing, or acting without being attached to it and without saying, whether it comes out right or not, or well not externally seeming, I've done what is my duty, that which should be done, and I'm doing it. When to act and when not to act. As the wise Solomon said, a time for this, a time for that. What ought to be done and what ought not to be done. What is to be feared and what is not to be feared. Fear comes in many ways. We can say, oh, it's so risky, I just can't do it, but it's the right thing to do it. Well, we shouldn't then have fear. We should know it may come out badly, but there should be no fear of that. But then we should know what to really be afraid of. Evil action we should fear, because once you do it, is coming back to you. And that's it. Therefore, we should be very careful when we act, because the action will exactly be done back to us sometime in the future. And we'll have to eat the bitter or the sweet which we offer to others. Bondage and liberation. What leads to our bondage? What leads to negative karma? What leads to sorrow and suffering? And liberation. What leads to ease, happiness, and ultimate freedom. Freedom in all ways, and especially freedom from all ignorance and the attainment of perfect, which has to be total, self-realization. That is Sattvic. That's the Sattvic mind. Not the calculating mind, not the greedy mind, not the lazy mind. That intellect which incorrectly understands dharma and adharma, they either confuse the two, the good action and the evil action, or it doesn't understand what dharma really is. What is the nature of right action? What is the thing that is dharma? And what is adharma? What should we avoid and never do? What should be done? What should not be done is Rajasic. Because you see, it still results in action. So no one wants to be a lump. So in a sense, Rajas, since it's activity and well, it's doing something, is better than just being, as I say, a lump. But we have to understand rightly so. Why don't we understand? Because the person's so busy wanting to do it, we're thinking, well, all right, it's got to be done, that we don't think about, but it should be done. And if it should be done, what's the right way to do it? Also, maybe, and if it should be done, what's the right way to say, okay, it's enough, but we stop? That intellect, enveloped in darkness, regarding adharma as dharma, and there are people that truly think they're doing the right thing. The Nazis thought they were doing the right thing. The Nazis thought they were benefiting all of their society, at least. Yeah, kill those people that disagree with us. Kill those people that are racially impure. I mean, I knew an SS officer, former, of course, former SS officer, who was right there, goose stepping with the rest, and said it was, in fact, she said, it was one of the best times of my life because we had hope, we had purpose, we were united, and we felt we were moving forward. And you know, she was put in jail. She hadn't killed anybody, but she certainly had not opposed it. She was put in jail in 1945. She didn't get out till 1956, 11 years. And all the 11 years, what do you think she did? She sat there in her mind, because she wouldn't write anything down for the jailers to see, who she would contact and how she would go about reviving the Nazi Party and the movement. Really, 11 years, inveterate. She was working out, we'll just all do it again. Can you imagine such a thing? I mean, it's rather mind-boggling. I'm glad to tell you that she got out, and she got out with, okay, now I find out how we'll all round up those that are not in jail and so on. And somehow she met a saint, a Catholic saint, living there in Germany. I don't know who it was. It was not Teresa Neumann. She did not meet her. And coming into the contact with that saint, her sick mind began to be healed. And she came out of it and woke from that monstrous fever dream and realized that's crazy. And I was crazy. One of the things that has to be done in correction is to know what's wrong and also be able to say, well, there was something wrong with me. I also need to change. So it happened. I'm very glad to tell you. And she went to India, she met Anand my ma, and eventually she almost permanently lived there until Ma left the body. So she had, in a sense, saved herself. So the intellect developed in darkness regarding adharma as dharma. They think evil is good. They think lies are truth. And seeing all things pervertedly, that means turned backwards and opposite to what they are. Evil people do that. As I told you, I knew a woman, she was absolutely a valuable source of, information to me. If she hated someone, they were good. If she loved someone, they were evil. If she said something was the right thing to do, I knew it was the wrong thing to do. And if she said it's a good thing to do, I knew it was a bad thing to do. I mean, she was 100% infallible. She was so negative, I'm not exaggerating. She was totally negative, you understand? So her very body was negative. She could kill a house plant in 1 week. I've observed it. I'd see she'd come in with a plant. She'd say, "Oh yes, I'm going to put this here in the kitchen," or put, and I think, okay. So whenever I'm here, let me take a look. Within 1 week, dead. That's how backward turned she was. Isn't that sad? I'm happy to tell you, she turned around. That's a good thing. She became loving. She became kind. People who knew her actually said to me, "We can't believe it's the same person. We just detested her, but now we love her." So there's hope for everyone. So anyway, so still, this is Tamasic, to see everything absolutely opposite of what it is. That firmness of intellect, which is a good idea to have, or purpose, we should be steadfast. That firmness of intellect or purpose by which through yoga the functions of the mind, the prana, the vital force, and the senses are restrained is sattvic. So we're not just talking about somebody, they've got a lot of willpower and they know, okay, I mean, this is laudable. And so they don't let themselves do it, they don't let themselves do it. But you see, they want to do it. See, nothing has changed inside. They've just disciplined themselves. Like people in AA, they say at each meeting, "I am an alcoholic," but they don't drink alcohol. But they understand it's there. Krishna is talking about the possibility, which is a wonderful thing, of that to no longer be so. It's no longer a part of the nature. It's no longer a part even of the inclination. This is a wonderful thing. That firmness of intellect or purpose by which through yoga, it can't come by any other way. Now, here also in the Gita, frequently when he says yoga, he means karma yoga, he means right action. But it also includes the discipline we call yoga. Sadhana, in other words. When it's restrained that way, not just through willpower or we're scared of not doing the right thing. No. When it's through yoga, when it is true mastery, not just control, not just discipline, but mastery and eventually transmutation, so that it cannot even arise again because it isn't there anymore. That Shakti, that energy which was negatively polarized, is now positively polarized and moving toward the realization of the self. It's a marvelous view, but it is truth. It's possible. But that firmness by which one holds to Dharma, see, doing right, enjoyment and wealth from attachment, it's got I got a personal stake in it. Of course, we all realize it's got to be beneficial to us, but it means it's totally for me, me, me. And desire for fruits of actions is Rajasic. And being Rajasic, it only leads to more involvement and not to freedom. That firmness by which a stupid person does not abandon, this is interesting, these terms, sleep, fear, depression, and arrogance is Tamasic. There are the people, they sleep, they sleep, they sleep. Or they sit and go, their brain is asleep. I went to school with a girl like this. She was not intelligent. And in class, it was phenomenal. We'd be, looking at, maybe we were even discussing, I had a wonderful teacher. This is when I was in the fifth grade. Wonderful, kind person and intelligent. And we'd be in class, and Judy would sit with her chin on her fist and look up, and she'd look up, and then this is exactly what would happen. She'd go, and the wider her mouth got, the wider her eyes got. And I don't know why. Mrs. Ayers was a wonderful person. She maybe it was just out of kindness. She never once said, "Judy, will you come back to the rest of the world?" Uh, and it, but anyway, so she would do. Well, that's sleep also in the intellect. By the way, I worked with Judy when I was a long distance telephone operator, and Judy sat at the board doing just exactly what I showed you, and the lights would be flashing and calls would be coming in, and Judy would just be there with her mouth wide open. So, in all those years, she didn't give it up. She didn't abandon it. Fear. There are people who are scared of everything. Now, sometimes there's past life reasons. We don't condemn them for it, but also that you cannot motivate them. You can't say this is the right thing to do. If you do this, this is right, and so on, and you'll be benefited. They don't even do that. You've got to say, do you see this? If you don't do it, bam, then they do it. They have to be afraid. These people need religions that scream about hell and hellfire. There will be no hope if, when you're lost and forgotten, writhing in flames of despair, you remember you've chosen to be there, lost forever, lost forever. Oh, how sad. We used to sing that in church. You may not believe it if you weren't born in a psychotic religion, but we did. In other words, even the people that belong, they had to be motivated by fear. They didn't love God. They would say you should love God, but they didn't. Their idea of loving God was obeying God. If you don't obey God, God drops a ton of bricks on you. So they always were talking about blessings from giving money, blessings from that. They didn't want to do anything right, and they didn't want to do anything because of any relationship with God. This is sad. But it happens. So you can't motivate them by anything but saying, well, you can laze around, you won't have to do anything. pyramid sales. What do they say? You sign up all these people, you sign up all these people, they sign up all these people. Then you won't even have to work and sell anything anymore. You'll sit back and the checks will just come in. They say it. They say it literally like that. I knew someone who was involved with it. Of course, she was greedy and selfish. And she would keep saying, you ought to get involved in this because, and she was sit back and let the checks flow in. And of course, it was just as crooked as could be. And what they were peddling wasn't worth anything. Naturally, that goes along with this too. Nothing good comes out of this kind of mentality. So fear, depression, they're always down. We got to bring June out of herself. You know, poor old Walt, his family didn't like it. They were kind of mean to him. And so, he just kind of. So we keep thinking we got to save them, we got to deliver them. They're doing it deliberately. They're doing it deliberately. Let me give you, no, I can't. Yes, I will go ahead. It'll take up more of our time. I see we've got 21 minutes. But naturally, having done the right thing, the last talk, okay. There was an ashram, American ashram we went to. Very nice people, very good friends of ours. And they had beautiful kirtan, beautiful music, beautiful singing of God's name. So we went there one time and weather was good. We're all outdoors and they were singing this kirtan. Excuse me. Well, there was a man sitting there. He was, I'm sure, just in his mid-20s, oldest. He was like this. And he was just looking down. And there were two men there, obviously were of this spiritual group. And they had a book with the words of the kirtan. And believe it or not, both of them were holding it in front of this man. Now, he wasn't singing. He wouldn't sing holy names. It would dislodge his evil. So he's, and when time came for turning a page, they turned the page. Okay. Well, there was this Shaktipat Devi. Shaktipat, is a path that someone touches your broom and they give you the Shakti, and suddenly you're all transformed. All change comes from inside. But not with the Shaktipat, and they do things, they dance around uncontrollably, or they go like this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Hope you never come in contact with it. And if you do, run. Anyway, she was one of these. She was a power goddess. And she lived at some distance from our ashram. And sometimes on a Sunday she would come. And Sundays people came and we all ate together. And she would come, then she'd go back. And every week then I'd get the letter. Oh, tell me, who are these beings that travel with me everywhere I go? Whoa. Or even better, there's a light all above me, and I look and I see faces in the light looking down at me. What does this mean? Well, it meant, one, you're no doubt lying, but two, if you're not, you're a psycho. But I just never answered. So she came one time, and she brought something, her own contribution. Guess what it was? The Tamasic person's delight, millet casserole. If you haven't had it, don't. If you have, you know what you're talking about. It is, again, an insult to dogs to say dog food. So she brought this thing. Of course, she was very proud of herself because how Sattwic. Well, we didn't eat any of the garbage. I mean, literally. When the time came, it was all intact for her to take home. So, okay, she'd show us. So, a week or two later, when I was going into the place where we had our satsangs, what do I see off in the corner standing? But Mr. Wrong. She'd hauled him down. She brought him. So ultimately, she comes out, she pulls Mr. Glum by the hand. Well, okay, it was over. Now, the monks had cooked several dishes, actually. We were really spoiling these people. We should have never done that. We should have given a one dish thing and a meal, and that was it. But yeah. So I was in the back near the office, and one of the monks came back and said, "You know that man that whatever it was brought." I said, "Yes, I knew the man." Well, she said that he can't eat anything of the different dishes we fixed. So, shall we fix something special for him? I said, no, no. Tell her we're really sorry that he can't eat anything we fixed, but perhaps on the way back, they can stop at a restaurant and get him something to eat. Well, the monk was kind and I know he thought I was maybe being too tough, but I said, no, I mean it. You go tell her that. Okay, punchline. Mr. Glum ate 3 helpings of every single dish. Then, thank God, this woman never came back again because she had failed completely. But this is the way. And people like her will go along with these depressive. How could we not want to, again, bring them out? Oh, easy. They're enjoying every moment of it. Okay. And arrogance is Tamasic. We all know people that think that they're not God's gift, they are God. And nothing is ever good enough, etc., and on and on and on. You know what it's like. Well, you surely suffered through it. So all of this, then, these are the Tamasi, the bottom of the barrel. What in Kentucky they call the rakings. In other words, like when a dish and you just take out the very last little bit that usually is a little bit scorched. So it is. So we need to know these things, and it's gone over the time. But you see, the Gita, it's Krishna's fault. It's the Gita's fault because it's so wonderful just to talk about these unique, uniquely expressed principles of wisdom. So, namaste, namaste. Thank you very much. I appreciate it greatly. I do thank you for your patience, and I hope you'll be back.